Man. I was thinking today. I know, dangerous for Golden Blue to be thinking, right? I was thinking about that old saying. Um, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. Y'all heard that one? Yeah, that's an old saying. Well, if I stuck to that, then I wouldn't have any content right now. Because there's nothing nice to talk about the Pac-12 right now. And they're the headline of, well, basically the entire college football sports world when it comes to conference realignment. A lot of negativity. Man, and a lot of people get the wrong impression with these videos. Like, I'm just out here trying to bash the Pac-12. I don't like the Pac-12. It's not the case at all. Not the case at all, I promise you. I've said this multiple times. I actually like the Pac-12. I remember when the Pac-12 was really, really good. I remember when Washington won the national championship. Was it 90? I think it was 91. 91. And then I vividly remember USC dominating the early 2000s. It was an upset when Texas beat them. That's how good they were. Pac-12 is falling, guys. Every day that passes by, it looks like they're one step closer to oblivion. And not only did Colorado have a meeting today, in fact, I made a video on that while the meeting was going on, but the Pac-12 as a conference had a meeting this week. And a lot of people thought that, a conference, Pac-12 going to have a meeting. They'll be able to talk this over, smooth things out, and, Pac-12 is going to be fine. I'm hearing it did not go well. I'll be able to go into it more in depth tomorrow whenever I have the screenshots and, actual sources to show you everything, because my laptop is still not available, so I can't share any screenshots or anything. I'll do a regular video and share all that stuff. But from what I'm hearing, the meeting did not do good. Did not go well today. Did not go. From what I heard, almost a fight almost broke out. I'm just going to put it to you that way. I'm being serious. This is not hyperbole. This is what I'm hearing. There was almost a fight that broke out. Fight. They were arguing about. What I'm hearing is that they didn't even get to talk about the TV deal in depth because tempers flared. They started arguing, and at one point they had to clear the room. Everybody take a breather and then come back in. I mean, I guess it doesn't really surprise me that much because we know the bad situation that the Pac-12 is in right now. But that just tells you the tempers are flaring right now. That actually tells me that these universities, these presidents, like the Pac-12. There's passion. They're mad that the Pac-12 is in a bad situation. They're mad that the TV deal is not looking good. They want the Pac-12 to continue, but it just looks like it's not going to happen. And tempers flared, arguments broke out, and a daggone brawl almost broke out. So there's two ways you can look at that. Hyperbole, that's what I meant. Hyperbole. There's two ways you can look at that. The first way is, well, it's just really, really bad, and they're venting frustration, which is possible. But the second thing is what I just explained. These universities, these presidents are invested in the Pac-12, and they're upset. They see the writing on the wall. They see that the Pac-12 is it's not going to have a good TV deal, and that they are going to have to look to another conference, and they're mad about it. Either way, it's bad for the Pac-12. Bad. Today, and I did a video on this, today Colorado had an emergency action meeting. They were supposed to talk about legal advice that they wanted to address for a certain situation, and then athletics as it related to the Pac-12. Those were the two things that were on the itinerary, and I did the video. You saw the itinerary that were going to be addressed. I wonder how that meeting went, especially, because that meeting happened after the Pac-12 meeting, from what I'm understanding. So you're having a Colorado meeting after a disastrous Pac-12 meeting. I wonder how that went. Cindy Machado, thank you for the $2.79. That's a unique super chat. Appreciate the donation. Rest in peace, San Diego State to Power 5 and eventually Big 12. I think there's a decent possibility that the Big 12 will pick up San Diego State. Even if San Diego State doesn't go to the Pac-12, that's still a solid footprint in Southern California. Brett Gormark wants that Pacific time zone. And I know he's aiming for Arizona State, and they don't have daylight savings time. So technically, if he grabs Arizona and Arizona State, he is getting Pacific time zone up until November, which is the regular season or the large majority of the regular season of college football. San Diego State does have value for the Big 12. So if you're a San Diego State fan, don't lose hope because the Pac-12 looks like a train wreck. Don't lose hope. I would be very careful in accepting an invite to the Pac-12. That's where I would have. I know the Pac-12 is still technically a Power 5 conference, and that there's a chance that it retains Power 5 status, but Pac-12 is shaky at best. They're looking for brands that are willing to accept unequal revenue share because they want to keep Oregon and Washington. And Oregon and Washington, in order for them to stay, they would have to have unequal revenue share. And that's why things got out of hand. The bad TV deal, Oregon and Washington, possibly even Stanford and Cal wanting unequal revenue share. And then these lower brands are like, no, we already have a bad TV deal. Now you're asking us to accept unequal revenue share. And we understand that Oregon and Washington are the better brands. But this is a terrible TV deal. So instead of $22 million per team per year, that's the figure that I'm hearing, confirmed after confirmed after confirmed, they could be looking at $20 million per team per year, maybe as low as 18. No wonder tempers flared. That's insane. Rich Thompson, thank you for the $2 donation, says, recap the beginning. Well, I mean, we basically are recapping the beginning. Basically what happened, Pac-12 had a meeting. It did not go well. Tempers flared. There was a big-time argument, almost a fight. They had to clear the room and then come back in. And the reason wasn't really revealed, but you can kind of guess why. It's because of the bad TV deal, and then definitely Oregon and Washington wanting unequal revenue share, and possibly Stanford and Cal as well. So definitely two universities that's wanting unequal revenue share. But then Stanford and Cal could possibly also want unequal revenue share because they know they also hold some value to the Big Ten. Basically, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Oregon, Washington, possibly Stanford and Cal are trying to hold leverage over the Pac-12 because they know that they do have some value to the Big Ten, and they can throw it. Well, we can go to the Big Ten. If you don't give us unequal revenue share, we can go to the Big Ten. So, give us what we want or we're leaving. So it's either take the sides of those four and sacrifice the other six, or be like, well, that's not fair to those, and you go in favor of the other six, and then Oregon and Washington leave, which they're planning on leaving anyways. From what I'm hearing, Oregon and Washington are not willing to sign a grant of rights past 3 years. So in my opinion, the smart decision would be to side with the other 6 teams. Arizona State, Utah, Colorado, Oregon State, Washington State, because Oregon and Washington are bolting anyways. Otherwise, you're basically sacrificing these 6 other teams to keep these other teams that are only going to stick around for 3 more years anyways. it's a shame. Like the decision making of the Pac-12 is on a different level terrible. They shouldn't be in this position. I'm going to be honest. I think the Pac-12 is a valuable conference that has made terrible decisions. And I understand that UCLA and USC leaving to the Big Ten, that hurt them. But they could have very well easily survived that. Easily. But they didn't make the right decisions after that. Calico Willie, thank you for the $1.99 donation, says, not realignment, but WU gets their Kansas rematch. Yeah, West Virginia absolutely obliterated Texas Tech in the Big 12 tournament, and now we have to play Kansas as our reward tomorrow. If we play like we did today, we have a chance, but we'll see. Kansas has had our number. Regardless, West Virginia's in the Big Dance, which, by the way, Selection Sunday, I believe it's this Sunday, I think at 6 p.m. We will be having a live show for that. Last year, I was not able to do a live show for Selection Sunday because I was out of town. But the year before that, when we barely had 1,000 subscribers, that show had got up to around 500 watching at any given time. So we're going to try to beat that record. We're going to go live as the brackets are revealed and fill those brackets out on Selection Sunday. So if you're interested in watching the brackets come out, you know, what teams are going to be playing who live as they come out, keep it tuned here, Golden Bluted. We're going to be live, and we'll be we will be revealing the brackets as they come out. So let's beat that record from 2 years ago. And we only had 1,000 subscribers at the time. Now, right now, we're looking, well, let me put it up here real quick. Give me a second. We are at, last time I checked before we went live, 13,188. So simple math tells us that we should be able to beat that record. In case you stumbled on this live show and you're not familiar with Golden Blue, basically we talk about college football every single day. I do regular videos definitely every single day, and then we have a live show at 10 p.m. on weekdays. And we do sprinkle in some college basketball, especially when March Madness rolls around, which is kicking off as we speak. So we will sprinkle in some college basketball. So hit the subscribe button. And honestly, I'm here to entertain you. A lot of people are worried about, oh, man, hopefully I don't mess up and say the wrong thing and not get something wrong. Hey, we're all human. We're going to get things wrong. As long as you're entertained, as long as you've forgotten about your troubles, your little strifes, whatever, for a few minutes, I've done my job. That's what we're here to do. In interaction, I try to interact. That's why I started the Get It Gang, which is a name that I came up for all the people that leave video ideas in all my comments section. Every video, I look at all my comments, and if I see a comment that I like, I use it for a video idea. And I just try to interact with my audience as much as possible. Speaking of which, if you have a question, a comment, troll attempt, you want to make fun of me, you want to make fun of the Pac-12, open season on the Pac, or you want to defend the Pac-12, there's that choice as well. Best way to get my attention is, of course, the Super Chat button. It's the little dollar sign you see on the bottom right-hand corner. Anything you put in that Super Chat is going to go on the screen, just like you see the subscriber count, and I will read it for everybody to hear, and we will talk about whatever you want to talk about. And on top of that, I say this many, many times, us college football YouTubers, we're always thankful for those donations. All right? Always. 100%. But in the off season, we're thankful just a little bit more because college football fans do lose interest in the off season, and it's a little bit tougher to get those views. We had a tremendous February. We're off to a really good start in March, but you never know. It is the off season, so we do appreciate those donations very, very much. We have almost 200 people watching right now, so it looks like this is going to be a very active show. Very active show. So the two names that I'm hearing that are the odds-on favorites to leave the Pac-12 for the Big 12 first, we'll put it that way, first, sooner than everybody else, is Arizona State and Arizona. And then in a very close second, Colorado. Arizona and Arizona State have been very, very vocal about not being happy how the Pac-12 has handled this situation. Not happy at all. In fact, Arizona reached out to the Big 12 first. And then a day later, the rest of the Four Corners also reached out to the Big 12, and they've been talking for the past several days. I don't know what those conversations actually look like. I wasn't a fly on the wall, but I'm hearing rumors. You get tidbits here and there, and, you know, they like what they're hearing from the Big 12, and they're not liking what they're hearing from the Pac-12. The Pac-12 meeting didn't go well at all. Freaking fight almost broke out. That's how frustrated. You can sense the frustration, and you can't blame them. I mean, you really can't. This has been an absolute. Okay, we're on YouTube, so what more can I say? This has been a crap show for a doo-doo show. How about that? It's been a doo-doo show for the Pac-12 recently, and the way that I look at this, I don't know about everybody else, but the way that I look at this is every day that passes that we're hearing nothing from the Pac-12 is bad news. The reason I think that, number one, all the rumors that we're hearing. Number two, the Pac-12 is eager to get some good news about the Pac-12 out there because of all this negativity. If there was something good to talk about from Pac-12 sources, from Pac-12 universities, from the commissioner himself, they would be talking because, trust me, they don't like this negativity. It's the truth, yes. But if there's something positive that's about to come out or that is coming out, they would be saying something. So every day, next day, every day that passes by, and you're hearing nothing from the Pac-12, that is bad. Bad. Now, we know that Washington and Oregon applied to the Big Ten last year, right after we found out that USC and UCLA were leaving for the Big Ten. Did I say the Big 12? I meant the Big Ten. Big Ten. If I said Big 12, sorry, I meant Big Ten. Because it was almost immediately. It was either that week or the week after or 2 weeks. It was very shortly. But they've been in communication this whole time. Yes, the Big Ten denied them, but they've been in sort of, communication mode. The lines are open. And basically what I'm hearing is the Big Ten is willing to accept Oregon and Washington for a reduced revenue share. And the thinking behind that is, even though it would be significantly lower than the rest of the members, kind of like what Nebraska and Maryland and Rutgers had to agree to, even though it would be significantly lower than the other members, it would be way more than anything the Pac-12 could offer them. Under this deal that I'm hearing, $22 million per team per year, the most that I figured the Pac-12 could afford, even with unequal revenue share, to give to Oregon and Washington would be $30 million. And the reduced revenue share from the Big Ten offer, I'm understanding, is $40 million. That's a good $10 million more with unequal revenue share. And if they scrap unequal revenue share, we're talking $18 million per team per year. So it's a significant gap. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. If I don't, I sincerely apologize. Opie Deedon, thank you for the $10 donation, says, if Fox and ESPN are not paying the Big 12 for G5 teams, then why would they pay the PAC to pick up G5 teams? Also, why would Oregon, Washington sign a Gore with an exit fee since they can leave now, no exit fee? Ding, ding, ding. And that's why Oregon and Washington do not want to agree to a grant of rights longer than 3 years. That is the longest they want to commit to right now. 3 years. That's it. You nailed it with that super chat. Great job right there, and I appreciate the donation. As far as the rest of the comment, it's not that Fox and ESPN won't pay the Big 12 for Group of Fives. There's no guarantee. Whenever you look at those clauses in the Big 12's contract, that's the base. That's the guarantee. You bring in a Power 5, guarantee $20 million. But more than likely, they're going to restructure the contract to where everybody's still making the same amount. So you bring them in, and everybody's still going to be making around $31, $32 million per team per year. With Group of 5, it's going to be more difficult because there is no guarantee. But it could add something to it. I don't know. That's between the two parties as far as negotiations. But your point is well taken, and you basically hit the nail on the head as to why Oregon and Washington aren't signing these granted rights, because unless it's for 3 years, they're not going to sign them. And you gave a good reason. It's because there is no exit fee right now. Why would they sign a grant of rights that say, just a guess, 10 years with an exit fee when they could bolt right now? Even if it's for the Big 12. I know they don't want to go to the Big 12, but if the Pac 12's dying and there's no exit fee right now, hey, we'll use the Big 12 as a stepping stone. Cindy Machado, thank you for the $6.99 donation. Appreciate that. Does the Big 12 TV deal prevent for adding group of 5 teams? Because I want San Diego State, Fresno State, Memphis, and UCF, maybe also Boise State and Colorado State. UCF is already in the Big 12. We already know that. It doesn't prevent for adding group of 5 teams, but like I just explained, there's no guarantee for any revenue increase. But that doesn't mean that there wouldn't be, because some group of 5 teams are going to bring in more value than other group of 5 teams. For instance, I know you have Colorado State on there, but Colorado State coming to the Big 12, I don't think it's going to happen, because that wouldn't help at all. But you look at San Diego State, that's a footprint in Southern California. And Fox might be like, well, you know what? We have USC and UCLA in the Big 10, San Diego State in the Big 12. It's not bad. We might be able to work out something for that. That's why I'm telling San Diego State fans, do not lose hope, because the simple fact of you being in Southern California, that helps you. That gives you a leg up on basically any group of 5 team remaining out there. The only teams that are close, you listed a few of them: Fresno State, Memphis, Boise State, maybe Tulane. I don't know. But if I were San Diego State fans watching the Pac-12 struggle like they are, I understand. You were hoping for Pac-12 expansion, and San Diego State was next on deck. And now if this falls apart, you don't know if you want the deal, because they're probably looking at teams that are okay with unequal revenue share, and they're going to give most of the money to Oregon and Washington, and you guys are going to get the cheap end of the stick. But just be wary of that, all right? If it's not a great deal, don't sign it. The Big 12 is interested. I promise you that. Jason Moose, thank you for the $2 donation, says, rest in peace, Pac-12. That's exactly what we might be looking at. But like I always say, nothing is for certain until it actually happens. G, thank you for the $5 donation, says, Oregon State and Washington State may also be on board with unequal revenue share, because when the Pac collapses, they lose their Power 5 golden ticket. I agreed with that for a while, but then I got to thinking, what if the Big 12 comes a calling for them too? And I heard this past week that the Big 12 was talking to 6 teams. We know 4 of them, the 4 corners. Who are the other 2? Well, by process of elimination, I guess it could be Oregon and Washington, but really we know Oregon and Washington are going to be going to the Big 10. I mean, that's common sense. It's not going to be Cal and Stanford. No, Cal and Stanford would never, ever, ever, ever on any parallel universe, anything like that, would never join the Big 12. Not happening. Oregon and Washington State are the only 2 teams that make sense. So maybe not necessarily. Maybe they would have a spot in the Big 12. I don't know. I'm saying maybe. I understand your point, because they don't necessarily have the strongest brands of the Pac-12. But who knows? Maybe the Big 12 would throw them a bone. Maybe they would have to agree to a reduced revenue share. I don't know. But would that work? Would that be worth staying in a Power 5 conference? You have to weigh the pros with the cons on that one. Cindy Machado, thank you for the $6.99 donation, says, if Disney didn't lay off employees, do you think the Pac-12 would be in this position? That's a good question, because what that comment is referring to is, I think the deal was between $25 and $30 million, Amazon, ESPN, and then the whole, Disney is laying off employees, and ESPN pulled their offer, and then they re-offered, and that's where this new deal is coming from, $22 million. You might be onto something. maybe the Pac-12 isn't in this position, or maybe they're not in as bad of a position as this. Maybe they're still sort of in this position, but definitely not as dire for sure. That's a great point. I would say you are correct on that analysis. If Disney doesn't come out and say, hey, we're laying off or firing, whatever the case, getting rid of so many employees, and then ESPN had to pull it and then reoffer and lowball the Pac-12. Pac-12 could be looking at a deal between 25, 30 million, and with unequal revenue share, I still think they would have enough to keep everybody satisfied and give Oregon and Washington just a little bit more. So yeah, I think that, or let me rephrase it. No, I don't think the Pac-12 would be in this particular position. They would sort of be in this position, but definitely not as dire. It's bad, and it's funny that you bring that up because yes, the Pac-12 has made bad decisions, and that's why they're in this position. But they are also a victim of circumstance at the same time. Because if that Disney layoff doesn't happen, then we might not be talking about all this stuff with the Pac-12 possibly losing members, this and that. It's Pepsi break. Give me a second, guys. Mouth's getting a little dry. That's what happens when you talk too much. Anyways, all right. Let me get to this other super chat real quick. Reven, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you for the $10 donation. Says Disney has more debt than a lot of small countries. That's a fact, and that's why they had to lay off some employees, and that set off a ripple effect where ESPN had to pull their original offer, and then they re-offered, and they are definitely lowballing the Pac-12, and that's why the Pac-12 is in this position. So, excuse me. Yes, the Pac-12 needs to be accountable for their bad decisions, specifically George Kliavkoff. And, man, I thought he was going to be a good hire. I really did. He had a lot of business experience. He was well known for making good business decisions, so I thought he was a good hire. And it turns out he was basically caught like a deer in the headlights. Now, how much of that do we blame on USC and UCLA leaving, and he didn't see that coming? Well, I guess you could blame some of it on that, but at the same time, got to have better communication so maybe you can counter offer, work out a better TV deal to where they don't leave for the Big Ten. Because let's be honest, the Big Ten is going to be ridiculous in travel for USC and UCLA. So if the Pac-12 could have came up with something even remotely close to the Big Ten, I think they stay because USC and UCLA, USC owned the Pac-12 when it came to, bringing in the big bucks, that LA TV market, and they knew it. They knew they had a boss move. Basically they had more control than people realized because of the TV market that they owned. And so you would think that George Kliavkoff would know what's going on, kind of like Bob Bowlesby whenever he lost A&M and Missouri, Nebraska, Colorado, and then lost Texas and Oklahoma. Didn't seem like he knew what was going on as far as communication. Oh man, I'm losing all these teams. I guess I got to react. That's what George Kliavkoff is looking like right now. Oh man, I didn't realize I was going to lose USC and UCLA. I guess I just got to react. So you did he? I didn't get any type of sources or anything. ESPN, Sports Illustrated, CBS. Nobody said, well, George Kliavkoff tried to keep them to stay. He said, we're going to get you a good TV deal. Just hold on for a little bit longer. Tell the Big Ten, hold on. The Pac-12 is working on. I didn't hear anything like that. It was just boom, USC and UCLA off to the Big Ten. It makes you wonder, was he taking a nap? Was he taking a nap whenever the news broke? I don't know. Braden Bowen, thank you for the $9.99 donation. Says, do you think that USC UCLA may prevent Oregon from joining the Big Ten due to their recruiting footprint? I see. I bring up Oregon specifically because they compete with USC and UCLA for players the most, it seems. Yes, 100% agree. And I know, okay, short answer is yes. I do think that they would try to prevent Oregon. But the counter to that is I don't think USC has that much power themselves to keep Oregon out. They might throw a fit, throw a tantrum, be like, "Oh, we're not happy with that. You know, we're gonna sit over here and pout and cuss you out if you do that." That's all they're gonna do. They really don't have any, they really don't have any power in the Big Ten. I mean, they're not even technically a member of the Big Ten yet. So, I mean, no, they can't prevent Oregon, but yes, they would want to. If they had the power, yes, they would want to. However, the other side of the coin to that is bringing in Oregon and Washington would help with travels a little bit. And this depends on Cal and Stanford. Okay, so of course, the two teams that would help UCLA and USC in their travels would be Cal and Stanford. And even though Cal and Stanford have terrible football brands right now, they have elite academics, elite research, AAU status. They check all the boxes and more when it comes to the Big Ten. So they might not bring value to the Big Ten when it comes to football revenue, but they definitely bring value to the Big Ten in all the academics, research, AAU, all that stuff. Definitely. Elite, it doesn't get any better than Cal and Stanford. So it would not surprise me at all, not even a little bit, if the Big Ten tried to get Stanford and Cal first, and then maybe get Oregon and Washington on that reduced revenue share. My question is, are they going to do the same thing for Cal and Stanford? My guess would be yes. My guess would be they would try to get Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal all for $40 million per year, which, yes, it's significantly lower than the rest of the members of the Big Ten, but it's a sliding scale. So you start proving that you make money for the Big Ten and you start earning bigger chunks. Remember, Nebraska just recently started being a full share member. They started off as a partial revenue or reduced revenue, whatever you want to call it. Nebraska, Maryland, Rutgers, all three of them started off as reduced. So this is not something unheard of. This is not, well, that's never happened before going to Blue. Yes, it has. It most certainly has. We have a precedent for it. So it wouldn't surprise me. If I had to guess, if somebody said, go to Blue, you have one guess, get it right, I would be like, all right, well, I'm going to guess that they get Cal and Stanford first because of the academics, and then get Washington and Oregon. Here's the thing. If Washington and Oregon do go to the Big 12 because the Big Ten is like, nah, we're still not ready for you, and the Pac-12 is sinking and they want to make more money, from what I'm hearing, Brett Yormark offered them a deal to where they would have an out clause for the Big Ten. In other words, it's basically, all right, if you're in the Big 12 for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever, we'll put a clause in your deal where whenever, whether it's 20, 27, 28, 29, 35, whatever, Big Ten comes to calling, you can leave, no harm, no foul, no exit fee. So that in and of itself would tell the Big Ten, oh, we can actually relax a little bit, because we know that, number one, Oregon and Washington, they're not going to sign a grant of rights past 3 years, so they're not going to lock in something for 10 years, and then we got to wait that long. Number two, if they do decide to go to the Big 12, the Big 12 is so desperate for them that they would give them an out clause. So we can take our time and figure out exactly what we want to do. For Stanford and Cal, same situation, but they're way more valuable whenever it comes to academics and research. One thing you have to realize about the Big Ten is it's an academics shared conference. Everybody's resources becomes, well, everybody's resources. Your library is now everybody's library. Your research is now everybody's research. Everything is shared. And because of Cal and Stanford, I mean, they're the elite of the elite. And the Big Ten is over there salivating, oh, man, we can share all that stuff they have over there. Yeah, they're going to want them. even though they have a terrible football product right now. Cindy Machado, thank you for that $2.79 donation. Says WU to President's Athletic Conference. Huh? W to President's Athletic Conference. For some reason, I feel like I should understand that, but for some reason, I feel like I missed that reference. President's Athletic Conference. Is that a thing that I'm not aware of? It probably is, and now I'm going to look stupid. President's Athletic Conference. I've honestly never heard that. Never heard that. Somebody can explain that. Please explain that. Another Pepsi break. Mouth is drying up again. So I think the Pac-12 is looking at a situation like this. All right, I don't think that they're going to go away. So don't get that out of this video. Like the Pac-12 is done as a conference. No, I think they continue to exist as a conference. I think what's happening is the Pac-12 is going to bend the knee to Oregon and Washington, possibly Cal and Stanford, depending on if they're asking for unequal revenue share as well. Okay? Excuse me. So I think the Pac-12, they're going to bend the knee, all right? And so the other 6 schools are going to be like, no, we're talking to the Big 12. We're going to figure this out because we're not doing that. The TV deal is already bad enough. We're not taking even less. It's not happening. I would say at least the 4 corners go to the Big 12. Maybe Oregon State. All PAC. There we go. Gotcha. My bad. I should have saw the acronym. My bad. President's Athletic Conference. Gotcha. 4 corners to the Big 12. Yes. Maybe Oregon State and Washington State. We'll see how that turns out. So you're losing 4 members, possibly 6 members. So what they're doing is they're eyeing these group of 5 teams that they know would be okay with the reduced revenue share because it would still be at least double what they would make in the Mountain West. I think in the Mountain West they make between $5 and $7 million a year. So if you pay them $14 million a year, which is chump change in Power 5 conference, that's still double than what they made in their group of 5. So they're going to be like, hey, we're doubling up your money. We need to keep Oregon and Washington. We're doubling up your money. You're going to be in a Power 5 conference, which means you have an opportunity to make the playoffs. What do you say, San Diego State? What do you say, Fresno State? What do you say, Colorado State? What do you say, Tulane? What do you say, SMU? What do you say, Boise State? I'm telling you, would not surprise me at all. Larry Pilgrim, thank you for the $5 donation, says, from what I know, Oregon, Utah, and Washington, possibly Stanford, have boosters who open their deep pockets. Exposure is the issue. Possibly Stanford. Yeah. I can agree with that. I thought you had Cal in there. I mean, they have boosters too, but they're not going to be willing to make football moves. But yeah, for the most part, I would agree with that. But ultimately, I mean, I know money talks, but ultimately the decision is up to the Big Ten. You know, I don't know if the boosters can have any influence like that. I mean, Phil Knight himself, the owner of Nike, went on the meeting with Kevin Warren whenever Oregon and Washington met with Kevin Warren to talk about an invite, and still struck out. So I don't know if boosters would help on that or not. If you were referring to the move to the Big Ten. So I don't know. And I'm also hearing that Brett Yormark is offering perks to the 4 corners, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, that the other Big 12 members don't have. So I got to thinking, and I did a video on this if you didn't catch it. So I was thinking, what perks could they give these new teams that the current teams already have? They're not going to give them more money because then the current teams would be mad. They're not going to give them a signing bonus because, once again, the current teams would be mad. What kind of perk are they talking about? Then it hit me. Wait a minute. We already heard that Brett Yormark is willing to bring in Oregon and Washington and give them an out clause to the Big Ten. What if Brett Yormark is so confident that these other teams aren't going to get an invite to the Big Ten, but still have that hope? They still have that dream. Maybe one day the Big Ten will come get us. That in the contract, he gives them an out clause as well. In other words, he's selling them hope. He's confident it's not going to happen. They're going to go after Oregon and Washington, and we'll try to get Oregon and Washington in here for a few years. We'll give them an out clause. They can go, no problem. These other teams will give them an out clause, but that out clause will never be used because the Big Ten doesn't want them. I honestly think that's a genius move. Whenever I put that video out there, I mean, a lot of people were like, why would you give them an out clause to the Big Ten? That's basically saying, telling your current wife that they can sleep with their ex-husband and there's no penalty and, you would take them back anyways or let just a bunch of, I'm like, you guys are not understanding this. This out clause is just for the Big Ten, not for the SEC, not for the ACC. And it's showing confidence that, and I'm with Brett Yormark, I don't think the Big Ten would want these teams. Oregon and Washington, they're going to take at a reduced rate. Maybe Cal and Stanford. Beyond that, it's not happening. Beyond that, it's look to the ACC. They're not interested in Colorado. They're not interested in Utah. They're not interested in Arizona or Arizona State. Here's the thing. I would put a expiration date on that freebie. 5 years, 10 years, whatever you want to put it. So in the next 5 years, if the Big Ten calls you, you can leave without an exit fee. After those 5 years, it goes away. That makes sense. I think it's fair. And I think it's a great tactic, too, because you're still selling hope. Hey, guys, if the Big Ten does come calling in the next 5 years, be my guest. We're good. We're good. We want you in. We want you in. We'll let you go. No problem. But in the back of his mind, he's like, Big Ten ain't calling you in the next 5 years, so we're going to put this in there and know that you're sticking with the Big 12. Robert Perez, thank you for the $1.99 donation, says, Fresno will be in the Big 12. San Diego State Aztecs suck. Like the way you spelled that. I think both of those brands are very solid group of 5 brands, and it definitely helps them that they're in the state of California. And it helps San Diego State a little bit more when it comes to geography because they have Southern Cal. Now, what Fresno State has that San Diego State doesn't have is fan support. Fresno State's brand in football is climbing dramatically and swiftly. So they do have that. Both of those group of 5 teams bring value. And being in the state of California, that's just the cherry on top. That's a little bit extra. That's a Pacific. So what if the Big 12, for whatever reason, things fall through, they can't get Arizona State, or they do get Arizona State, but still don't land in Washington State or Oregon State? Well, San Diego State, Fresno State gives you that Pacific time zone all year round. All year round, instead of just up until November. I mean, I understand that's the large majority of the college football season, but it isn't the entire college football season. And it's not for the last few games of the regular season. It's not for, conference championship. Well, I guess you would play that in a different time zone anyways. But anyways, the last little bit of the college football season would not be a Pacific time zone. And I'm sure it would be enough. But at the same time, that would be kind of annoying to me. Like, man, I have the Pacific time zone. But do I really? I mean, I'm getting the Pacific time zone on a technicality because Arizona doesn't have daylight savings time. And there's still that last little bit of the regular season that's not in the Pacific time zone. That's a little bit irritating right now. Maybe I should go out and get San Diego State, Fresno State. Yeah, something like I could see something like that going through Brett Yormark. What about Brett Yormark, though? I think he's been a tremendous commissioner for the Big 12, and I was kind of the opposite on him. Maybe I'm just a bad judge of character whenever it comes to conference commissioners because I was low on him for the Big 12 and I was high on George Kliavkoff. And it turns out that George Kliavkoff is a terrible commissioner and Brett Yormark is actually a very slick commissioner. Longevity, we'll see. Brett Yormark just took office not too long ago, so we have a very small sample of Brett Yormark, but so far he's knocked it out of the park. So we'll see if he can do some magic here in the near future. But the Pac-12 is just bad news after bad news after bad news, and like I said earlier in this live show, every day that goes by that you hear absolutely nothing from the Big 12 is bad news. The old saying is, no news is good news. No, for the Pac-12, no news is bad news. Because if they had good news, they would definitely be letting people know, because there's nothing but negativity surrounding the Pac-12 right now. Nothing but negativity right now. So if they had anything whatsoever positive to say, they'd be, all right, we have this going on. The teams have agreed they're staying, this and that. Pac-12's good. Everybody shut up, But we're not hearing anything. It's still quiet, which tells me issues. And then the whole meeting, basically a disaster. Basically, from what I'm hearing from the sources, basically a disaster. They barely even got to talk about the TV deal because tempers flared, arguments ensued, and a fight almost freaking broke out. A fight! During a meeting of the presidents of the universities and the Pac-12, a freaking fight. Could you imagine those presidents fighting? I'd really like to see that. That would be interesting. Matt Richardson, thank you for the $4.99 donation, says, can San Diego State and SMU sue the Pac-12 conference because couldn't get league or conference voting? Probably not, unless they had actually left their current conference and started actually playing in the Pac-12, and then all of a sudden it dissolved and they're left there with nothing. And then on top of that, the conference that they came from is nope, we don't want. Then they might have a case, but as is right now, they're still members of their old conference, so I don't think they would have any type of case if the Pac-12 does end up folding up shop. But that is an interesting question, and it is worth mentioning for sure. That thought has crossed my mind a few times. Cindy Machado, thank you for the $6.99 donation. Says, do you follow ALT football? USFL, XFL alternate. Gotcha. USFL, XFL, yes. Indoor or arena, yes. Or even NFL and any other pro sports. Yes, I actually follow NBA. Believe it or not, I follow the NHL, especially during playoffs. The NHL, I really like. It's a lot of action. I like it a lot. NFL, I do follow. XFL, just because it's new and it's interesting to see if they're going to survive this time. They tried it this time. Will it survive this time? And the product that I'm seeing now, I'm liking it. The crowds are much bigger. There's still certain markets that you're like, man, they shouldn't have picked that market because there are no fans at this game. So I still think there's some trial and error going on with the XFL, but I think it looks a lot better than what it did. Arena football, I did there for a while whenever Greenville had an arena football team. I think they were the Greenville Rhinos. But since Greenville doesn't have an arena football team anymore, I really don't keep up with it anymore. USFL, never really caught up with that, but it's fun. I might look at it here and there because there are some former West Virginia players that are in the USFL. So NFL, yes. NHL, yes. NBA, yes. MLB, a little bit. XFL, just because it's new. And I used to for arena, but not anymore. Hopefully that was a clear enough answer because I confuse myself sometimes. Let's see. I think I missed one here. Larry Pilgrim, thank you for the $2 donations. Says, where did you get the fight info from? I have it on a screenshot, and I'm going to do a video. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I have a screenshot, and I'm doing a regular video, so you'll actually see who I got it from. But there's so many different people that I get stuff from that I get it mixed up. I'm trying to... I can't think of it right now. If it pops in my head, I'll definitely let you know. I'm definitely thinking about it now. I'm trying to figure out who said it was two different sources actually. Jason Moose, thank you for the $2 donation, says, I think Big Ten gets 4, then the rest of the Big 12 or the Mountain West. So, yeah, I can agree with that, because that would mean that the Big Ten gets Oregon and Washington, and then in that, Dave Barr, thank you for the $1.99 donations. And then that would mean that the Big 12 got the 4 corners, and then Oregon State and Washington State goes to the Mountain West. So that is a scenario that's very, very doable. We'll see if that's exactly what happens, but it is very doable. So in that particular, let me recap. In that particular scenario, what you're suggesting, you didn't name the teams, but I'm just going to put the pieces together. You're suggesting that Oregon, Washington, Cal, and Stanford to the Big Ten. I'm with you. I think that could happen. 4 corners, Arizona State, Utah, Colorado to the Big 12. I'm with you. I think that does happen. And then Oregon State and Washington State end up in the Mountain West. That's where I would kind of push back a little bit, because I think what the Pac-12 is going to do is, if they start seeing this exodus, they're going to backfill with Mountain West schools. So instead of Oregon and Washington having to join the Mountain West, it's basically the Pac-12 backfilling with the Mountain West, but it's still the Pac-12. Basically, they'll be in the Pac-12 that backfill with Mountain West members. Is it basically the same thing as what you said? Yes, basically. Martin Hinderer, thank you for the $5 donation, says, how many New Year's Bowls have Fresno State and San Diego State been in? That would be none. Boise State is 3-0. Absolutely. Boise State is, I think, Boise State is the winningest Group of 5 team in the last 20 to 30 years, and top 10 in the entire nation, and that's counting like your Alabamas and your Clemsons and all the big dogs. I'm telling you, Boise State has a really good football brand. The thing that hurts Boise State for the Pac-12 specifically is their academics. But I'm telling you, if the Pac-12 could have gotten over that, or maybe hedged them, in other words, all right, we still have our academic stuff. You're part of the Pac-12, but you're not part of the academic group. I know that sounds snobbish, but it is what it is. But you're bringing in a great football brand. I think it would have helped the Pac-12. I don't think the Pac-12 would have been in as a dire situation as that. Would it save the Pac-12? I don't know. I mean, they're a good football brand, but I don't think they're that good. So, save the Pac-12? No. Help the Pac-12? Yes. D-Day, thank you for the $1.99 donation, says UNLV, Gonzaga, UConn, Villanova, basketball only rumors. I have not heard those. I will say this, Gonzaga to the Big 12 I have heard, and I have suggested, I haven't heard anywhere else, but I have suggested if the Big 12 is going to bring in Gonzaga only in basketball, then they need to bring UConn, even if it's just for basketball as well. I don't want the Big 12 to get West heavy. Remember, the Big 12 still has some East teams, and my team is one of those East teams. If the Big 12 just keeps piling on the West, like us East teams were like, thanks, appreciate it. You're making life that much more difficult. It's already tough. Now you're making it even that much more difficult. Football, it's tough enough. Basketball, volleyball, baseball, all this other stuff, it's even tougher. So you're adding a team out in Spokane, Washington, on the other side of United States. At least give us somebody over here. That's where you can grab a UConn and maybe a Villanova as well. Yes, and maybe I guess UNLV to balance it out. I don't know, but I have heard Gonzaga and UConn. I haven't heard about UNLV and Villanova. So that's very interesting to see that. Rote Read, thank you for the pretty good donation, buddy. I appreciate that. We appreciate all the support. $19.99 donation. That's a good one right there. Oregon and Washington will go to the Big 12 for 2 years. I can buy that. And demand that Big 12 brings Oregon. Ooh, twist. And demand that Big 12 brings Oregon State and Washington State to ensure those schools stay in a Power 5. That, you know what? I am screenshotting that. Give me a second. I am Sir, you are officially part of the Get It Gang. I am making a video on that tomorrow. That is, why have I not thought of that? That is awesome. That is awesome right there. So, he's taken the scenario of Oregon and Washington using the Big 12 as a stepping stone. But on top of that, they save both little brothers by saying, hey, we'll come to the Big 12. Give us that out clause. But you also got to bring Washington State and Oregon State because we don't want to leave them high and dry. We want them in the Big 12. There's your Pacific time zone. Yes, you already know we're going to bolt to the Big 10 because you're giving us an out clause. And, we're going to make more in the Big 10. You already know the deal. But bring in Oregon State, Washington State, and boom, you are insured that Pacific time zone. And Washington State and Oregon State, they have decent football brands. Oops. Let me get that straight. That's what happens when you start kicking your feet around. Washington State has a top 25 fan base as far as size goes. So it's not just, this little, I guess we'll bring in Washington State. They're, they do have a small stadium, but their fan base is large. And when it comes to Pac-12 viewership, Washington State, if you're not counting USC, 4th in the Pac-12. That's nothing to sneeze at. That's only below Oregon, Washington, and Utah. That's it. Washington State 4th. So they do bring some value. They would lock in that Pacific time zone, and it gets you a decent footprint in the state of Washington and in the state of Oregon. And Oregon State might have a small stadium, but it is a nice stadium. They're pouring a lot of money into amenities over there at Oregon State. So they're making a game in Corvallis as comfy and luxurious and modern as possible. So they've done a great job. When you get a chance, Google the Oregon State football stadium. It's very different. The layout's different. The way the seating chart is, it's very unique, very different, very compact. And Oregon State had a good football team this year. And whenever Oregon State has a good football team, they have home field advantage. For sure. They almost beat USC in Corvallis. I think they only lost by 3. So that's not a bad idea, and I will do a video on that tomorrow. Well done. Right there, you earned yourself a Get It Gang video spot for tomorrow. And yes, I will do it. I will do it tomorrow. Good one right there. I like it. I like it. Because yes, Washington State. I don't like this, but it's a fact. There is a chance that Washington State and Oregon State could be left out in the dust. I don't think it happens, but what I'm saying is there's a chance, and it would be a shame because they both have great academics and they have good fan bases, decent football brands. I just don't think that they would deserve that. So if Oregon and Washington could pull that off for little brothers, that would be amazing. I would be okay with Oregon State and Washington State coming to the Big 12. Yes, it would make travel a little bit worse, but you know what? It's going to happen anyways. And when you're in the Big 12, you just got to hope that the Big 12 does what's best for the Big 12. So whatever that decision is, they have to do it. And I think bringing Oregon and Washington, even if it's just for 3 years, they are going to make you money. They are going to give you some clout. Maybe they give you a couple of wins in the playoffs with the expanded playoffs. And then, bring in Washington State and Oregon State as well. So even when Oregon and Washington leave, boom, you still have a footprint in the state of Washington and in the state of Oregon. I really like that idea. Cindy Machado, thank you for the $6.99 donation, says, did you see the NBA commissioner is a candidate for CEO at Disney? Does that change NBA to NBC? What? No, I did not see that. That last part of your comment, does that change NBA to NBC? No, I don't think it does. Number one, I don't think he would hold both the office of NBA commissioner and a CEO for Disney. So I really don't think that would be a conflict of interest. And it would just be about trying to get, make the best deals. And I just don't see Disney being interested in the NBA. So my personal opinion, I mean, Disney just had to lay off a bunch of, jobs. So, ESPN had to pull that deal from the Pac-12, and then they re-offered a low ball, right? So he's taking over a job, Disney, who's having money issues. They just fired a lot of people or laid them off, whatever you want to call them. I don't think Disney would be interested in the NBA. Now, that's just my opinion. I understand what you're saying, though, because he is the NBA commissioner, so, he will be basketball-minded, but I don't think it would carry over to that. I don't think, I think once he transitions over to Disney, he won't be, the NBA guy anymore. He'll be focused on, what's best for Disney. And I don't think, I just don't see Disney and the NBA doing something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm human. I've been wrong before, of course, many, many times. That's why I make sure people know this is about entertainment. As long as you had a good time and you're entertained and you forgot about your worries and troubles just for a few minutes, then I've done my job. Because if I worried about being right all the time, then I would be stressed and a nervous wreck, because we're going to be wrong. So I could be wrong about that. I don't see it. It just, it's not a good match for me. But who knows? Who knows? How's everybody doing, by the way? Y'all having a good time? I know I'm having a good time. I always have a good time on my live shows, but I like to make sure you guys are having a good time as well, because that's my job. My job is to make sure that you're having a good time. So I like to check on y'all from time to time. How's everybody doing? We having a good time so far this evening. By the way, make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already. I usually remind people at the beginning of the show, but I was so ramped up for this one, I forgot to do that. So real quick, if you haven't hit the like button, it's easy, simple, fast, and free, and it's one of the best ways to support the channel. And by the way, if you're not watching this live and you're watching a replay, we would greatly appreciate for you to hit the like button as well, because that's what helps these live shows and all the videos hit the YouTube algorithm and gets it suggested more, and more people see it, more people click on it, and all that stuff. Benjamin Hawks, I'm actually going to do a regular video on what a fight didn't break out. I'm saying a fight almost broke out. They had to adjourn because there were some big time arguments. I have the source, but it's on my phone, and I'm using my phone for the live show, and I can't access it right now. But tomorrow, whenever I do the regular video, I'll show you all the screenshots and everything. D-Day, thank you for the $1.99 donation. Says, as a Kansas State alum, I sympathize with Washington State, Oregon State, Adam. Exactly. I mean, I think that's why I have a little bit of a soft spot for Washington State and Oregon State as well. I wouldn't want that to be, I wouldn't want that to be, a problem for West Virginia. So I empathize with these other fans. I mean, those fans really exist. There really are a lot of Oregon State fans. There really are a lot of Washington State fans, and I don't wish that upon them. They haven't done anything to get punished like that. They have a great football fan base. They have Washington State definitely has a large fan base, top 25 in the nation, bigger than West Virginia's. That surprised me. We're top 30, but they're top 25. But I guess this shouldn't surprise us that much, because they make sure that Old Crimson, a.k.a. the Washington State University flag, is on every ESPN game day. So, excuse me, it shouldn't surprise us that much, but at the same time, their stadium holds like 42,000, something like that. So it is a small stadium, but I'm thinking it's the location. So I agree with you, D-Day, and I sympathize with them as well. I just think that would be unwarranted. It'd be unwarranted because they it's not like, let's see, a good all right, so some fan bases aren't going to like this. It's not like a Rutgers. Rutgers has had very little success in football. They don't try that much. Now, they've upgraded their facilities because they make a lot of money. Not because they care about football, but because they're making a lot of money. Okay? So, yes, they've upgraded. Stadium looks decent. I think it holds like 50,000, something like that. But the attendance is not that great. Their fan base is not that great. I know they carry the New York City TV market, but it's not that big of a draw. I would think, if I had to compare teams and say this team deserves Power 5 status, this team does not, I would definitely put Washington State and Oregon State above Rutgers. I would put them above Duke. Yes. I would put them above Boston College. Sorry, Boston College. I would put them above, in spite of recent success, Wake Forest. Hey, I know Wake Forest has had 2 pretty good years the past few years, but they were still second to last in TV ratings. The only team that was worse was Duke. So yes, I stick by that. Oregon State and Washington State deserve to be a Power 5 team more than Duke, more than Wake Forest, more than Rutgers. Let's keep going, shall we? More than let's see here. Vanderbilt, SEC, yeah, more than Vanderbilt. Larry Pilgrim, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, hopefully I don't butcher this name. Ed Catmull, Parkersburg born, Utah grad, Pixar co-founder, and president of Disney Animation until 2018. West Virginia / Utah tie, FYI. Wow. He was born in Parker. See, I'm telling you, it is a small. I live in the upstate of South Carolina, and I have my Golden Blue sticker and my West Virginia on my car. And I tell you, everywhere I go, people stop me and say, "What part of West Virginia are you from?" And there's a lot of West Virginia fans. It's bigger than you realize. It is a top 30 fan base, but you don't really think about that until you actually encounter it. And I encounter it a lot. K-Dude, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, don't have an issue with Big 12 adding Oregon State and Washington State, but have Oregon and Washington sign a GORE that lasts at least 60 to 80% of current media deal, 3 to 4 years. That makes sense. And on the flip side, for this out clause for these other teams, I would only give that a window of 4 to 5 years, because I would actually be confident that the Big Ten would not pick up Colorado, Utah, Arizona State in the next 5 years. So maybe it doesn't look fair or seem fair, but you got to play the odds and you got to play the brand worth. So on one side, you force Oregon and Washington to sign a 3-4 year GORE, like you're suggesting. All right, we're bringing in Oregon and Washington State. And then on the other side, you're confident that the Big Ten is not going to come after Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State in the next 5 years. So in order to entice them, you're like, you know what? If the Big Ten comes a calling for you in the next 5 years, you can go, no problem, no exit fee. You have to play different brands a different way. You have to go by their brand strength, interest of other conferences, and specific conferences. So with the four corner schools, they could garner interest from the ACC. So don't give them a free out for the ACC. It's possible that they could garner some interest from the SEC. Doubtful, but just to cover your rear end, give them a buyout for the SEC. But the Big Ten, you know that the Big Ten is not going to come and get them, at least in the next 5 years. They are hesitant to get Oregon and Washington, and they only want them at a reduced revenue share. They're focused on the ACC. They want some brands out of the ACC. There is no chance the Big Ten is going to come after those brands in the next 5 years. So you give those 4 brands an out clause just for the Big Ten in the next 5 years. That way, they still have hope. So you're saying if the Big Ten calls us in the next 5 years, we can leave just like that, no exit fee? Absolutely, because you have confidence that the Big Ten is not going to want them in the next 5 years. But on the flip side, like you said, you make Oregon and Washington sign a 3 or 4 year grant of rights, because the chances of the Big Ten wanting them in the next 3 or 4 years high. So make them pay a price if they want them sooner rather than later. I like your idea so much that, you know what, I am going to screenshot that. I'm going to screenshot that as well. I think it actually ties into the other one that I just screenshotted. Anyways, Cindy Machado, thank you for the $6.99 donation. Says, would Brent Yormark flee to the NBA if hypothetically, that Adam Silver doesn't become the CEO at Disney. Also, he was a Big Ten commissioner candidate. Big Ten commissioner, I could see Brett Yormark going to, and I'm not scared that. Let me make something perfectly clear. Okay, I am not a conference homer. Okay, the only thing that I care about the Big 12 and other Big 12 fan bases don't like me because of this, but it is what it is. I don't understand conference homerism. I don't understand the I don't understand it. So the team that you want to beat in week 4, now you're rooting for in week 7 or national. It just doesn't make sense. No, I was not rooting for TCU to beat Michigan or Georgia. Well, actually, I take that back. I was rooting for TCU to beat Georgia, but not because they were in the Big 12. It's just hearing Georgia fans was driving me nuts. Anyways, I digress. I am not a conference homer. It is my point. All right. So it wasn't like, oh man, Brett Yormark to the Big Ten. That sucks, man. Big 12. No. As long as the Big 12 remains a Power 5 conference, and as long as we can replace him with a competent commissioner, that's fine. I'm okay with that. As long as the Big 12 doesn't fall off a cliff, I'm fine with that. And I think there's a possibility of that happening. This is like the third one that I like, so I'm going to screenshot this as well. I like that video. I just like it, so I'm going to screenshot it, okay? I think it's possible. As far as the other thing, NBA, I mean, he does have ties with Brooklyn, though. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on what his contract looks like, because I'm sure there's some type of buyout for his contract as well. But, he has ties with the Brooklyn Nets, so him being the NBA commissioner, that's definitely possible. Him being the Big Ten commissioner, that's definitely possible. Both good possibilities. Cindy Machado, thank you for the $2.79 donation. What's your pro sports team? All right, so of course in college football and college basketball, it's West Virginia. That's easy, right? Major League MLB is the Cincinnati Reds. The NFL is the Cincinnati Bengals. NBA, this is a weird one because I became a fan of an NBA team later in life because of certain circumstances. But in the NBA, I'm a fan of the New York Knicks. And it's a weird story, but the reason I'm a fan of the New York Knicks is because in 1998, the New York Knicks became the first 8 seed ever to make it to the NBA Finals. Yes, they got beat by the San Antonio Spurs. I think it was in 5 or 6 games. But, it was such a magical time. Those playoffs all together, like the buzzer beater that Sean Elliott had against the Portland Trailblazers, that was crazy right there. And a couple of what was his name? Oh, man. The guy that hit the game winning layup against the Miami Heat in the first round, the 8 seed beating the 1 seed. I can't think of his name. The guard. Anyways, that was a magical playoffs altogether. But that's when I really started liking the NBA, and of course, I went with the Magic itself as far as the team goes, and I was a New York Knicks fan ever since. And of course, all my teams have never won a single championship in my lifetime. Yes, the Reds won a World Series, but that was like 2 years before I became a Reds fan. The Bengals have been very close to winning a Super Bowl. New York Knicks, I think that's the closest they've been since I became a Knicks fan, was that very first year. So, yeah, it's been a rough fandom life for me. As far as the NHL goes, I've always been a LA Kings guy because of Gretzky. So I don't really have a team for the NHL, but I've always been I've been fond of the Kings because of Wayne Gretzky. But overall, don't really have a team. I also like the Red Wings as well because of the history. Cindy Machado, thank you for another $2.79 donation. Says, how is San Diego State doing in basketball? I think San Diego State's going to make the big dance. I haven't been keeping up with Mountain West basketball, but San Diego State, I think they're still having a pretty good year. I know Houston is also having a really good year. So, yeah. That that game-winning shot by Sean Elliott against the Blazers was, well, I don't know if it was like a game winner, like last-second buzzer beater, but I know it was in the last seconds. And the reason that shot was particularly crazy is not only was it a three-pointer, but it was up against the so he was on the right side of the court. So here's the court. They're on the far side, and he's on the right side, and he's shooting a three-pointer, and his toes are like this. If his foot comes down, he's out of bounds. He had to shoot that three-point on his toes. So he shot a game winner on his toes. If his foot comes down, he's out of bounds. I mean, just so many crazy things in that particular playoffs. It was awesome. And, it was a back and forth between Spurs and Knicks as far as who I became a fan of, but it was ultimately the Knicks. I think it was Madison Square Garden that ultimately tipped me over to the New York Knicks because the Larry Johnson 4-point play, holy crap. Y'all need to Google that. Larry Johnson 4-point play. Who was that against? I'm trying to think. Was it the Pacers? I think it was the Pacers. Yeah, 4-point play. It is the biggest crowd pop you will ever hear for any score ever. It literally looks like Madison Square Garden comes off the foundation. Seriously, when you get a chance, if you've never seen that, Google Larry Johnson 4-point play. You can thank me later. That was an awesome play. I will never forget that. I mean, I came unglued whenever that happened. I came unglued. I digressed to the NBA. What happened here? Anyways, but yeah, it was good times. But for the Pac-12, it's not good times. The Pac-12 meeting did not go well at all. Fight almost freaking broke out. Definitely big time arguments. The room had to be cleared, and it's just not looking good. People are not getting along, and it's not because they don't like each other. It's actually because they love the Pac-12 so much, and they see it going down the drain right before their very eyes, and there's nothing they can do about it. That's why they're mad. Cindy Machado, thank you for another $6.99 donation. Says, do you play video games? And if so, are you excited about EA College Football? I do play video games, and I am excited about EA College Football because I had every single one. I have every single T-Duck. It wasn't T-Duck. Who was it? Hold on one second. Somebody asked me something. Who was it? I get sidetracked so easy. Oh, Connor Johnson. I have it on a screenshot, and I can't share my screenshot on a live show. But I'm doing a regular video on that fight that almost broke out during the meeting and the big time argument. So I will have screenshots of where I'm getting that information. I can't remember who it is, and I can't bring up the screenshot because I'm using my phone on the live show. But tomorrow I'll definitely share it with you. But yes, every year college football, EA Sports, boom, got it. Dynasty mode, all that stuff was amazing. I know that I think it was 2013, 2014 was the last year that they made it. And certain people made it to where they could keep upgrading the rosters to where it made it seem like you were just getting, the next version. But it was really just updating the rosters and the stadiums and stuff like that. But the fact that EA Sports is actually coming out with a new college, oh man, yes, I am absolutely pumped. I have an Xbox. We have a PS5. I think we have a Nintendo Switch. So I'll buy a version for every freaking one of my consoles. K-Dude, thank you for the $10 donation. Really appreciate that, buddy. Says, I know this is a college football channel, but with your Mark's plans for separating Big 12 basketball football, imagine a coast-to-coast conference tourney with Arizona, Kansas, West Virginia, Houston, Texas Tech, Kansas State, Cincinnati, etc. You would have a mini NCAA tournament. Yes, you would. And don't forget about Gonzaga. I'm hearing that it's almost a done deal between the Big 12 and Gonzaga. He's just waiting on this other stuff to get ironed out as far as bringing in new members for the Big 12 on the football side of things. He's not really separating Big 12 basketball and football. It's just he's only bringing in Gonzaga for basketball, but everybody else will play basketball and football, and it's going to be the same league. It's just Gonzaga doesn't have football, so you can't bring them in for football, and they're not going to get any of the football money. So the Big 12 will go from being, without a doubt, the best basketball conference in the nation to the elite, not even close, best basketball conference in the nation, adding Gonzaga. So, yeah, that's he's just 2 steps ahead of the Pac-12 and everything. Because you gotta think that the Pac-12 had to have been at least a little bit interested in Gonzaga. I mean, they're already there in the state of Washington. They're definitely going to help you in basketball. Oh, but they don't have a football team, and that's what drives expansion. I get that, but you don't have to pay them the football money because they don't have a football team. So that has nothing to do with it. Strengthen your basketball brand when you get a chance. Jeez, not that hard to understand. But for whatever reason, George Kliavkoff can't get it. I mean, you already have Washington and Washington State, and Gonzaga is in Spokane. Why would you not try to get Gonzaga? No. Instead, the Big 12 is like, oh, we already have a great basketball conference. Let's make it even better. And yes, I'm hoping that whenever the Big 12 gets Gonzaga, please get UConn as well. And I'm seeing the comments in the comments section. I see you. I hear you. I feel you. And I agree with you. I think definitely the Big 12 needs to make that happen. All right, guys, I hate to do this. This was a great live show, and it's we still have over 200 watching. Make sure to hit the like button if you haven't already, and hit the subscribe button too. This is what we do every single day. We entertain the masses with college football talk as best as we can. So please hit that subscribe button. Let's see. Let me get back to your super chat, Cindy. Hold on. Let me go to my banner. At last count, before we went live, we had 13,188. So let's get to 14,000 in the next month. I think we can do it. We were going for 20,000 by the end of the year, but we're doing so well, we might have to bump up that goal. So make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're a growing channel, and every subscriber counts. We would greatly appreciate that. Cindy Machado, thank you for the $6.99 donation. Says, I hate that I can't watch much NCAA sports because ESPN Plus is region locked. I absolutely agree. And, a lot of West Virginia's football games are on. What's up, Ballard? I see you, buddy. A lot of West Virginia's football games are on ESPN Plus. And, yes, I'm a diehard West Virginia fan, but I'm not getting ESPN Plus just for that. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I know throw eggs at me, whatever. But I do go to at least one West Virginia game a year, and I live in the upstate of South Carolina, so it is out of my way. Okay, I do make an effort. We went to one last year, 2 the year before. We're going to try to go to 2 this year. I think we're going to go to the Backyard Brawl and the BYU game. So. Really looking forward to that, but I'm still not paying for ESPN Plus. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. How much would I love if West Virginia joined the PAC? I would not love it at all. That would be not because I don't like the PAC. It's because the travel would be absolutely horrendous. It's the only conference that makes less sense geographically for West Virginia than the Big 12. That's it. The ACC is better geographically. The SEC is better geographically. The Big Ten is better geographically. The Big 12 is not good geographically, but the Pac-12 would be even worse. Even worse. All right, guys. I got to wrap this up, guys. I got to get up early and do the whole get the kids to school on time. We don't want them to be tardy because of a live show, right? And on top of that, you want me to have energy to put out the best content possible. You don't want to grog and go to bloated going, I think the Pac-12. What was I talking? Was I talking about the Pac-12? I think you don't want that going to blue. You want the energized. Nobody's talking about has his notes written down. So unfortunately, I do have to wrap up the show. This was a great live show, and it's not because of me. It's because of you. And don't forget, guys, Go to Bluted is now partnered with Mint Mobile, a sponsorship. Go check out yesterday's video and hit the link in the description. And if you hit the Go to Bluetooth link, you can get a plan with Mint Mobile for $15 a month. $15 a month, and it uses the same network as AT&T and Verizon. Basically, you're gonna have the same service and all that stuff. My entire family has switched over to Mint Mobile, and it's awesome. Trust me, I would not be saying that if it was not true. Okay, it's a great deal on a great carrier. So go check it out. Mint Mobile with Go to Bluetooth, trying to give you the best and cheapest in cell phone service. Not on today's videos, but on yesterday's videos. So make sure to go check that out and hit the link. And that actually helps Go to Bluetooth as well. So it's a twofer. You're helping yourself and you're helping Go to Bluetooth. Anyways, guys, appreciate you stopping by. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. And as long as you were entertained and as long as you had a good time, then I can go to bed with a smile on my face knowing that I did my job. I am living proof that hard work pays off. If a little schmuck like myself can have a decent little YouTube channel like this, then anybody can do it. So if you have a dream of starting a YouTube channel, my best advice to you is start it. You're going to make mistakes. The sooner you make the mistakes, the sooner you learn from those mistakes. Don't be scared to laugh at yourself, and don't be scared to make those mistakes and learn from those mistakes. Anyways, happy hump day to everybody. Thank you for a great live show. I really appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. But as of right now, tonight, Golden Bluetooth is out.